Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Photographers Inside the Photographer's Mind. I'm your host Dan Ginn, and on this episode I'm joined by the Photographers Editor-in-Chief, Chris Gampat. Chris joins me today to talk about everything that's been going on in the world of gear. He'll be talking about the Nikon 28mm f2.8. He'll be talking about the OM system OM1, a camera that's grabbed the attention of everybody into Micro Four Thirds. He'll also be talking about his Canon QL17, a luxury birthday gift, and explaining why that was for him, and we'll be covering some other topics as well. Guys, if I could just remind you to please subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube, share it, hit a like. Also subscribe if you're listening to Google, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Right, let's get into it with Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Dan.
Hey. You're in a good mood because you're fresh from Pilates?
Yes, Pilates. It's just now, yes. That and, you folks didn't see this because we weren't recording it. I also applied beard oil, and I have this very special way of doing it, and I love beard oil. And the peppermint's hitting me really hard right now, so I'm like, yes!
Oh, that's good. Giving you some rejuvenation, some energy.
Yeah, exactly. How's life, man? How you doing?
It's all right. We'll get onto gear, but let's speak beards first and foremost. Seems to be more pressing. I went for a beard trim yesterday, and I said, "Trim it, please, just a little bit." And they just decided, "Well, I'm going to ignore your request and just shave as much off as I like." So here we are, a little bit shorter than usual, but I don't look like a 14-year-old boy just yet, so that's good news.
It does look sharp. I'm not going to lie. It's like pointy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, shaping on point, but length just didn't care about what I asked for. So, and smoked a cigarette whilst I was in the barber. He was just cutting my hair and smoking a cigarette. So, Eastern Europe.
You ever had one of those Turkish shaves where like they take like a little wick of fire and they're like this? And for anyone listening, because you're probably listening to the podcast, basically they just like quickly touch it to the hair and they burn the hair off.
Yes, they did that to my ears actually once, the ear hair, and which I didn't ask for. He's like, "You want me to sort out your ear hair, right?" And I was like, "All right, mate, a bit offensive, but yes, please, seeing as you've asked, I wouldn't mind that, and you can trim my eyebrows if you
want." Crazy, man. Nice.
So we've got quite a bit of gear to talk through. We've got some Nikon, some Tenber, some Kodak, some OM system talk as well. I'm tempted to say Olympus, but am I wrong if I say Olympus now? What is that incorrect?
Yes. Olympus and OM Digital Solutions split off last year. Yes. OM Digital Solutions is the old camera division of the old Olympus company. Olympus did not think that it was a profitable division versus like their medical division. And, considering the state of the world, of course, your medical division is going to be a lot more profitable. So OMDS got split off, bought by the same company that bought Sony Vaio years ago, the laptop makers. And now, from my conversations with the folks over at OM Digital Solutions, it seems like they're able to lean more into their identity with more comfort. So they're very happy about that. And the first camera that they came out with is the OM system OM1, which oddly says Olympus on the front, but it's just says homage.
I was about to ask that. Yes, so they've said, "Hey, this relationship is no more. It's not you, it's me. Let's go our separate ways." But hey, put the logo on the. Is that just for the first camera, or are they going to continue doing this? Are they leasing the logo? Like, what's going on?
That's a great question. So first off, here's the camera right here. This is the OM System 1. I have a Voigtlander lens on here. They didn't comment on future cameras whether or not it will have the Olympus logo on it, but they did it just as like an homage. Maybe they'll keep doing it. Maybe they won't. I'm not really sure, but either way, names aside, I would just put some black tape over this, and I'd be happy with the camera. I almost gave it editor's choice.
Is there a significant kind of difference in how it's made compared to how it was before when the relationship was still there? Is there any significant differences, or have they kind of gone with the same kind of formula, but kind of adapted it a little bit?
A combination of both. So, first off, it's a lot more weather resistant. Olympus, when they were Olympus, used to actually use our YouTube videos to show off just like the torture tests that their cameras could take. We published one where I quite literally ran it under a faucet for a couple minutes and it kept working. And even right now, it works totally fine. So the weather sealing is improved. The ergonomics are also improved a lot more. The menu system is not annoying to deal with anymore, which is really nice. The only thing I really, really wish is that this were a touch menu. Instead, you just kind of have to use like these dials to get through and the front one to go from one area to another. The color coding is really nice. That works out. Works great for them. There's also more AI built into this camera. So it can detect human faces, bird faces, animal faces, trains and locomotives, vehicles, and there's one more that I'm forgetting, I think. But either way, there's a lot of AI built into it. I tested it for various different situations, did a really great job. The only annoying thing, and I mean, OM System and Sony both do this, is they separate bird and animal autofocus. And that can be a real pain because let's say you're walking in the forest, right? And you go from seeing a really nice, cute chipmunk, you photograph the chipmunk, your camera's set into animal AF mode. But then you see a red-tailed hawk, and you want to focus on the red-tailed hawk. The best thing for you to then do is to go into the menu system and to then switch to bird autofocus, which is annoying because you might lose the photo of the red-tailed hawk. And a couple other systems don't make you do that. If I remember correctly, Nikon doesn't make you do that. I have to go back in my Z9 review to check that out. The Canon system doesn't make you do that, and Panasonic system doesn't make you do that. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but it works. The autofocus is pretty great. The image stabilization is very good. The image quality was also a big concern for a lot of people. We printed an image at 17 by 22 inches at ISO 6400 and came out really clean. So we're very, very happy with those sorts of results. Basically, everything that Micro Four Thirds really needed came to this camera. And that's really reassuring for anyone that shoots stills.
So I want to go back because on our last video on our YouTube, I'll link to it right now. So if you're watching, check it out when you listen to the podcast. But you know, the photographer is kind of the, and I'll be careful how I say this, but the BDSM of camera reviewers, because we have the we have the privilege of being able to really put cameras to the test. Obviously, you put the Olympus, I shouldn't say Olympus, but the OM,
just say
OMDS, OM system. Thank you. You put it underwater, and it's not the first time you've done something like this. How did you get that to pass? Like when you're sent review units, how do you like, hey, we're gonna beat this up and see how it fares up? Like, how does that happen?
Well, to first clarify, we don't ever put things underwater unless they actually say that you can submerge it. There's a big difference there. We usually just ask for permission from the manufacturers, or sometimes when they're a little bit hesitant, what we do is we look at what they're saying for like weather resistance or something like that, and we ask manufacturers about like, well, how weather sealed is this? Can you send us a diagram of like where the seals are or something like that? And in case of like something like the Sigma Contemporary line, there's only sealing at the mount, right? So it'll be sealed at the mount, which means that your sensor might be cleaner, but water and moisture and all that kind of stuff can still get into the lens and then still get to the sensor. In a situation like with OMDS, we use the weather sealed lenses that are set to the same IP rating as the camera. The OM1 has the same IP rating as the first Google Pixel, so it's really good. And we just put it into situations where photographers will actually use them or something similar. So let's say Hillary, Brittany, or I were photographing with, let's say, a camera like this, and there is no rain, then we would put it in a situation that kind of simulates rain. So get like a bowl of water, just go like this with it. It'll simulate almost a little bit like rain, or shooting in the rain for a really long time. But otherwise, we just straight up go in the rain or the snow or something like that, and we test it in those situations. And if the camera survives, then the camera survives, and if it doesn't survive, then it doesn't survive, and that's really about it.
And the OM system survived?
Oh yeah, this is one of the toughest systems out there. I think the SL2S is probably the only other thing that can hold its ground.
Now, you slightly touched on it, but maybe some people have a concern that in 2022, why we're dealing with micro four thirds sensors. People get antsy about crop sensors, and then they want bigger sensors and bigger sensors and bigger sensors. What is it about this sensor? Have they done anything different that's allowed you to kind of push it, especially with the ISO, push it high, print it relatively big, and get a clean image? Like, how do you know how they've been able to do that? Have they given any kind of press on that?
They haven't given any major press on it. I have a couple theories that I will say, and I will again once again say that these are just theories of mine. OMDS has had a very close relationship with Skylum in the past couple of years, and Skylum has developed a lot of AI technology. I think genuinely that the noise reduction technology from Skylum is being ported into this camera's processor. It's a much more powerful processor, and I think that the noise reduction technology is being applied there. Otherwise, some of the advantages of Micro Four Thirds are you get more from your telephoto lenses. So, for example, let me grab the lens very quickly.
Sure.
If I wanted to photograph birds, right, I could have a lens this big. Now, let me show you just for scale how big this lens is. I'm going to grab my iPhone real quick. So I own the iPhone 12 Pro Max, right? This is my iPhone 12 Pro Max right here.
Okay.
And this is the lens. Not much bigger, right?
Yeah.
And they also do this really innovative thing where you can just, that's the lens hood. It's pretty cool. But then when you put it on, what's up?
I was going to say, that's quite cool, pop up.
Yeah. And then when you put it on the camera, come on, Chris, you can do this. I also have a teleconverter on here as well, too. But this entire thing is the equivalent with a teleconverter of a, it can go up to 600 millimeters, basically, which is really, really crazy. So for birding and wildlife and all that kind of stuff, it's really, really useful. But in addition to that, too, I think the other really great thing is all the AI that's built into here and computational photography. There's quite literally an entire separate menu for computational photography, and I'm trying to get to it just so I can remember everything. There's high-res shot. It's 20 megapixel sensor, but it can take really high-res photos just by stitching things together. Then there's live ND shooting, like if you ever care about using a neutral density filter. One of the problems with Micro Four Thirds is because it's a smaller sensor, you get more depth of field, and therefore then you're more prone to problems with chromatic aberration and stuff like that. So f5.6 on Micro Four Thirds is like f11 in full frame. And you don't usually want to stop down past f11. So to get rid of that issue, they have this live ND feature that allows you to shoot at a more open aperture and still get really sharp images, which is brilliant in my opinion. And there's focus stacking, that doesn't really have any, that doesn't really need any sort of introduction, rather. HDR, which is really cool, and then multiple exposure, which is also really cool. But one of my favorite things about this is called live composite. In our review, you'll actually be able to see this. We were able to photograph a photo of Manhattan in New York City with stars right above it. Whenever you've seen photos like that, they're usually photos that are composited. Like someone just took like the stars from like, I don't know, Albuquerque, New Mexico or something like that, and they put it in another photo. That's not what's happening here. I actually photographed the stars that were visible in New York. Well, visible if you have better vision than I do. And I was able to put them all together in one photo in camera, which is otherwise very, very incredibly difficult to do. It's the first camera I've ever been able to do it with.
Wow. Wow. You seem, when I hear you talk about this camera, I hear a hint of excitement. Like you've actually, you get a lot of review units in, but I feel like there's maybe you don't want to give this one back. Am I right? Is there excitement with this?
There is still a lot of excitement. Yeah. Anytime that Hillary, Faraz, Brittany, or I, anytime we get something that's really, truly innovative, we really are genuinely that excited about it. And there are no other cameras. Actually, no, that's a lie. I have been able to get live composite with the Panasonic S5, but when I had it, I wasn't able to get the photos that I did right now. That's partially because I had the Panasonic S5 in August, and I have the OM system camera right now in February. February, it's better for stars. I haven't been able to do star trails with any other camera like that before. So, yeah, plus in something that small, that lightweight, like, it's something I'd want to carry around, no problems.
And how much are OM asking for this particular camera?
So body only, I believe it's $21.99, and then if you get it with the kit lens, which is a 12 to 40 millimeter f2.8 Pro, that's the equivalent of 24 to 80 f2.8. Depth of field is like f5.6. I think it's like $27.99. Pretty good package overall. You'd be kind of stupid not to get it with the lens, personally.
Excellent. Well, we can put some links down where people can grab that if they want it, treat themselves. Not Christmas or anywhere near, but it's always a good time to treat yourself.
I mean, Mother's Day are coming up, so why not?
That's true. That's true. And they've probably got ungrateful kids who aren't going to buy them the OM system, so they should just buy it for themselves.
Yeah, love yourself. Give yourself the gift of OM.
Okay, so we're also going to talk about the Nikon 28mm f2.8.
I'm going to grab that.
Grab it.
Here it is on the Z5, right here. I know you have an affinity for Nikon still, but
I do. So much so that I've stopped saying Nikon and started to say Nikon. I don't say Z5, I say Z5 or Z9, So I'm really, really trying to get there. But people don't care about my relationship with Nikon. Tell us about this lens. How is it?
It's pretty small, as you can see. Let me get something else for scale. So this is chapstick right here. This is the lens right next to chapstick. Pretty small.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a pancake, a little bit bigger than that. 28mm f2.8. There's weather sealing built in. Nikon does this really fascinating thing with weather sealing where, man, I was just twisting the lens to the other direction because every other camera system does it. I forgot it's Nikon. But anyway, it does this thing where there's this little lip over the edge there to prevent any sort of moisture or dust or anything like that getting in. Does a very good job. Not going to lie about that. My issues with this lens, well, let me go through. Ergonomics are really simple, plain, no problems there. Ease of use, very simple. Autofocus on this thing with the Z5 is not the greatest. The Z5 recently had a firmware update, and actually we published it today when we were recording, or yesterday, I forgot what day, where the camera system will be easier to autofocus and acquire faces in really low lights. This lens seems to be the exception. I tried it with the 35-1.8. Thank you, the Lens Rentals, for loaning us that lens. And then I tried it with this 28mm f2.8. By the laws of physics, the 28mm shouldn't have had a problem trying to get focus on a face in low light, but it did. And that was really disappointing. So I tried it at a bar. I tried it outside. I tried it at another sort of bar, and it was kind of inconclusive. It was really annoying versus the 35-1.8. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, there's like a stop more of light going to the sensor with the 35-1.8. That shouldn't really be a problem with this lens, but it is a problem with this lens. So I'm not really a fan of the autofocus. The image quality, though, is really nice. I actually like the colors. Hillary, who moved away from Nikon to Fujifilm, doesn't really like Nikon colors. Generally speaking, I'm not the biggest fan of Nikon colors either, especially with the Z9. With the Z5, different story. And with this lens, also different story. They're kind of warm, they're saturated. They kind of give like this really comfortable, homey feeling to them. And that's what I'm getting with this lens. So I haven't written my review of it up yet, but I think that, you know, if you're photographing landscapes or stuff that doesn't really move, or you're not really photographing a lot in low light, it's a fine lens to get. Otherwise, might annoy you a little bit.
Are there similar kind of focal lens built for that Nikon system that may be a better option for people?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I don't think they have a 28mm f1.8 yet. If they do, I'm probably just forgetting because we review so many different lenses all the time. And they have a whole series of f1.8 lenses. They have like a 20, they have a 24, they have a 35, they have a 50, they have an 85. Yeah, so none that I can think of with autofocus, or at least autofocus that's fully sanctioned by Nikon, meaning the two actually have like a verified relationship to work together. I know Villatrox makes a couple lenses, but I think what they're doing is like reverse engineering the autofocus system or something like that. Samyang has done that, Rokinon has done that, other companies have done that when they can't necessarily work with the company. So yeah, man, I mean, personally speaking, I wouldn't get this lens. I like the 28mm focal length. The autofocus is just enough to annoy me, though.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That is a shame.
Yeah.
And you've been... Anything else on the Nikon 28 that we need to know about? I don't want to rush you on to another topic, but
no. It takes really good photos. Once again, I mean, there aren't really any issues with distortion or anything like that. I shot a couple environmental portraits in bars of bartenders and all that kind of stuff. Did a good job. Didn't really have any problems with it at all. The image quality is great. It's just the autofocus. Yeah, it can make you pull your hair out. That's why I have no hair right now, clearly.
You should, I won't say you should sue Nikon for hair loss, but maybe, hey, listen, your autofocus is, my hair's going. So we could go to Canon. I think the Canon QL17.
Ooh, yes, a vintage camera. Vintage cameras, you know, a lot of other photo publications won't necessarily review them, and a few have gotten into it recently. I think DP Review has done a couple. Pop Photo came back from the dead. I think they've also started to do some. But I got this as a birthday gift to myself. I turned 35 this month in February, and I decided to get a really pretty one. So this one obviously was refurbished, and then they have this really beautiful, nice leather on it. Well, it's really beautiful. It's really gorgeous.
But where do you put the SD card, Chris?
Beg pardon?
Where do you put the SD card?
Oh, you put it in this little wallet over here?
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. No, it's a film camera. So
I know I'm trolling the film camera community. But,
I know, but it's actually a good point. I should talk about it. It's a 40mm f1.7 lens. It's full frame. No megapixels at all. So you load film in there, and you shoot 40mm f1.7. Aperture priority camera. There is an option for manual mode. I'm sorry, no, not aperture priority. Shutter priority camera. So if I set it to 1/250th of a second, I can set the aperture to A, and it will just automatically choose the aperture. Otherwise, I can set it to, I can shoot full manual if I'd like to. I probably haven't figured out how to do this yet, but I cannot figure out a way to get the metering to tell me whether or not a scene is perfectly metered in full manual mode, but I can do it in aperture priority with no problems. It's a manual focus rangefinder, beautiful focuses like this. Where is it? It is right. Yeah, I had it right in the first place. Just like that. There's a little focusing tab right here. I don't know how well you can see that.
No, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, and it's basically like, like a Leica or any other rangefinder like that. You just kind of line it up. And I'm going to set that to A mode. And I'm going to shoot. That was the shutter. And then you just advance like that. And it's gorgeous and beautiful.
So out of all the film cameras in the world, of which there are many, why was it this particular one that you felt that you wanted to, large birthday, 35, you're at your peak, as you've mentioned before. Why was it this particular camera that you chose to go with, and say not a Leica or a Canon or whatever? It was a Canon. Sorry, I apologize. Or a Nikon. Can you tell I know nothing about film cameras? Is that?
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a great question. First off, this is actually something I'd like to call a semi-mechanical camera. The reason why I'm calling it a semi-mechanical camera is it takes a battery, but the battery is just to power the meter. If that battery dies tomorrow, the shutter would have no effect. There are cameras that require a battery for you to power the shutter. But then what happens if the battery dies? Or if, like, you buy a vintage camera, the battery dies inside, the battery corrodes and screws up the entire battery system. Then, you have to get it fixed. That will never happen. So even if the battery dies, I could just switch it into manual mode, meter by eye with Sunny 16, and it will keep working. So those are some of the most reliable cameras you can get. It's one of the reasons why I love the M6, the Leica M6 that is, and a couple other cameras. In addition to that, built of metal, really good build quality. It's fairly small. I'm gonna get my iPhone 12 Pro Max. So this is the iPhone right there. This is the camera. It's wider.
Okay, yeah.
My iPhone is wider. That is. In terms of height, they're around the same size.
Is it even smaller than like an XT20, XT30?
That's a great question. I think it's around the same size. I haven't held one of those cameras in a really long time. But
perfect size.
It's a very iconic camera as well too, because the lens is really nice. It's easy to use. It's you can just wear it around just like this. Take it, shoot, easy, no problems. And it's stylish. I wanted a stylish camera. Some people are just like, oh, I use a camera just for taking photos, and that's cool. I can also use my phone just for taking photos if I want. This is a lifestyle piece. This QL17. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to act like a piece of jewelry sometimes. So that's why I got a pretty one. And there's no problem with that. I think cameras need to be pretty as well too. Like, no one needs a camera these days. It's a luxury item. You need to give people a reason to want to buy it besides just the technology in there. You might as well make it look good. I mean, you're a Fujifilm owner. I'm a Fujifilm owner. Hillary's a Fujifilm owner. Brittany's about to be a Fujifilm owner. We don't talk about Faraz. And Mark is a Fujifilm owner as well, too. So why do we get them? Partially because they're pretty cameras, but they're also really great.
Yeah, absolutely true. Now with this Canon QL17, what's your preferred film roll combo? What are you going to be putting in there, and do you have any thoughts about that?
That's a great question. I'm trying to remember what I put in here. I think I put a roll Tri-X or T-Max in here. It's my test roll. Probably a stupid idea to put that in your test roll, but whatever. I have some Fujifilm Pro 400 left, the discontinued stuff, so I'm going to be shooting with some of that. Might be shooting with some Kono film. I really like what Kono does. Sometimes they color tint some film. It looks really nice. Might shoot some Kodak Portra 800 because it's my favorite of all of them. Yeah, or some Ilford. I don't know. I have to go through my fridge. Sometimes I literally just look at my fridge, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll take that film, and that's it.
Well, I remember when I was staying at your apartment. I think you were in Germany at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go in the fridge and see what there is to eat." And then I'm just like going past all these rolls of film, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm hungry. I can't eat film. What's going on? What's going on here, Gampat?" But nice to see that you're still stocked up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The pandemic really made me also realize too, like people sat there and they hoarded film, right?
Mm.
If you hoard all that film, and let's say you get COVID tomorrow, right? You've had COVID twice. I thought I had COVID, I haven't had it. What's going to happen to all that film? You're just sitting there waiting for the right moment to shoot that film. The right moment is now, right? Like, savor life. Just go shoot the film. I know it can be expensive, so, be careful with what you shoot with it and take your time, but shoot it. Don't sit there and just like wait for a rainy day or like another project or something like that. Just go shoot it. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's
very true. That's stage advice. It's unused film is pointless, really, isn't it? To be fair, it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Now, another topic we were going to speak out is the Kodak Tri-X cameras. Okay, all right. So when I look at that, I'm thinking my nana at the beach, just wanting to take photos of the family. Like, what? How is this camera, or what is it about this camera that's made it into your hands?
Let me see if I can channel your nana's energy right now. Dan, smile for the camera.
I'll be honest, if you channel my nana's energy, you might die because she died 10 years ago. she's got zero energy. She's got nada.
Turn this episode to a seance or something like that. How did this get into my hands? We have a good relationship with the Kodak. We've had a relationship with the Kodak for many years. And they came up with this camera. And I was like, hey, cool, we want to review it. We've reviewed Kodak Tri-X before in medium format and in 35mm format. And I was like, cool, why don't we do something on these? Because they're fun. And when I got them in, New York went into lockdown because of Omicron. So it's not like I was going to go around. One of the reasons why people would still use these, besides if you go on Instagram and, see people just shooting a lot of nudes, there's this joke that the way to get a lot of traction on Instagram or Reddit is you find a beautiful woman, you take a photo of her with film, and then you just say you shot with Kodak, and then you'll just get all the upvotes and all the hearts and all that stuff. It's really stupid. But either way, one of the things that people use these for is parties still. Parties, rather. So I'd go to a party, and I would just, pull it out, have fun, just... I'm going to power up the flash right now. Come on. There we go. Now it's ready. And then we do selfie like this. Or I take photos of you or other people at a party. And, you live your life. And then when you're done, you just drop it off, get your scans and prints, and that's it. And I know that there are people that can, like, take their photos and then put like a Kodak Tri-X filter over it, and that's fine. But it's a different experience of, using your X-T2 and then doing that later on, and just shooting, being in the moment, not looking at the images at all, not even being able to at all, and then just dropping it off. There's this joke that some people will say like, hey, can I see that photo? And you'll be like, yeah, here, this is it right here. See? Analog touchscreen, I guess. And it's just like whatever, like you have a drink in one hand and then you have your camera, you go around, whatever.
Having a good... So let's compare it to, say, like another fun party piece camera, an Instax, where, that everyone loves playing with it. Which one would you say is more fun? The one where you can get the image pretty instantly and, and show it, or this one where there's a little bit of, anticipation and waiting time, which would be the ultimate party camera?
I think if you are very scared of talking to other people, the Instax is probably a lot better because you can sit there, you can share the image with someone else pretty easily, you can make a connection, they'll remember you. And with just this, it's just like, oh, okay, cool, like whatever. You bring this, the Kodak Tri-X camera, to an event where you know everyone and you're just letting loose. You bring the Instax camera to something where you don't necessarily always know everyone. Like Instax cameras are very popular at weddings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone's going to necessarily know each other at a wedding. So you just have moments to share that way. These, totally different because you have to wait. So, yeah. I'm also considering doing some street photography with this.
Nice.
Might be a little weird. I'm not going to use the flash the entire time. I just don't know who would buy this for street, not going to lie. I'd probably buy it more for a party.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I might invest in one of those and be the fun guy at the party for once with the camera. Well, I always take the camera to parties, but they're not as cool. The Fujifilms don't quite grasp the attention as much as, say, one of those cameras.
Aren't you usually the DJ at parties?
Yes, I'm either the DJ or the guy who got kicked out. One of the two, depending, on how much alcohol I have gone throughout that time.
All right. Well, if you get kicked out, you can use the Kodak and take a selfie of yourself at the same time and make sure the flash is on. And it would make for a pretty awesome photo, I
think. So we've got a couple of more. Now I'm probably gonna butcher the way I say this. We should all be grateful that I said Nikon, so that was good. So I apologize to everybody listening and the manufacturer. But is it Laowa 85mm? Am I saying that right?
Laowa.
Okay.
Laowa. And it's crazy because as I reach for the camera and the lens, the proper name of the company is Venus Optics. Laowa is just the name of the sub company for the lenses, the line of lenses. So they just like to be called Laowa, I guess more. It's easier to say. It's better for SEO, all that kind of stuff. No one's really going to type in Venus Optics Laowa 85mm f5.6 macro. They'll just type in Laowa. This is a small macro lens, an incredibly small macro lens. It's on the Leica SL2S here. This is chapstick, just for reference. It's not actually even that large. It is, so that's the lens hood coming off. Chapstick and the lens. So it's pretty small.
Okay.
But it's an 85mm f5.6, so it's not a fast aperture, but it's perfectly fine if you're going to shoot macro because you're going to stop down there anyway. It's very lightweight, made of metal. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yep.
Yeah, metal. No weather sealing, unfortunately. This is the L-mount version, and I could have put it on like Panasonic or something like that, but I own a Leica SL2S, so I might as well put it on a Leica lens. Leica camera, rather. Has an apochromatic element. Leica uses those themselves. Can cut down on a whole bunch of like image quality issues, but we've also seen that it sometimes gives images like this really nice pop. You've probably seen them in some of my reviews or Hillary's or Brittany's. Can be really nice. This lens also, once again, it's a macro lens. I've been having a lot of fun with this lens. I've been photographing plants, photographing my watches. Today with my Breville tea maker, I did this thing where it has like the self-cleaning option, and it was creating a whole lot of bubbles. So I was photographing the bubbles as they were coming up in these like trails, and it was really fun to get super duper close. Like, for example, so this is my microphone right now, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to see how close I can focus up with it. I'm using the back LCD screen right now. So that is about, that's amazingly close. So for scale, once again, I'm going to use the what's it called? I'm sorry. Oh my god, chapstick. Chapstick. That's the word. So I'm going to focus on this microphone, right? That's about it in focus, and it's pretty much around the chapstick, or a little bit further away. That's how close I'm focusing. But I am an 85 millimeter lens, and I don't know how well you can see that. Probably not so well, but basically it is the top of the microphone right there. Let me see if I can do something else. I'm going to do the chapstick right now. There's a barcode on there, right? That is my thumb. No, that's bad. So, very close, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And I was a little shaky, but I got the barcode.
Yep. Actually, I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. So it can focus very closely, and because it's an 85 millimeter lens, it's a longer lens, and it can kind of like zoom right in, no problems. There's full aperture ring on it as well too. Affordable, like a lot of Labo lenses are. I don't remember the price. I usually look at that later on. Lightweight, feels nice. Don't really have any problems with it or issues with it so far. Some people might be like, oh, it's a 5.6. I really wish it could have like an f2 aperture or f3.5 or f4 or something like that. The problem is if you do that, it then becomes a larger lens. And they're trying to design a very small lens. So I understand that. They were very transparent about that in the beginning. So, yeah, and f5.6 is also good for portraits and stuff like that. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you think maybe they're targeting someone who's going to be using studio lighting, say for product photography or something like that, where they can get away with a f5.6? They don't necessarily need the extra width on the aperture.
That's a great question. From a lot of their sample images, it seemed sort of like that. There were folks that were bringing out a flash into like the middle of the rainforest and then photographing frogs with it and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't really think I would use this necessarily all the time without a strobe of some sort, for sure. So that's also a big problem, I guess, too, with L-mount, because the three players for cameras are Sigma, Panasonic, and Leica. Leica's flashes, they're basically like rebranded Nissans, from what I'm able to understand, and they're more pricey. The Panasonic system does have access to good flashes because Panasonic and Olympus, or OMDS, share the same hot shoe. Sigma, don't even worry about their flashes, don't bother. So, yeah, the L-mount Alliance doesn't really have a whole lot in terms of flashes, and I wish that they had more support there.
Well, hopefully that's something that can change in the future.
Yeah, because if they do that, this is a killer combo for sure then.
Well, thanks again to Chris for speaking with me. We had some slight technical issues towards the end, so we cut it a little bit short. Guys, we also want to make you aware of the Photographer's official app. It's out on iOS, iPadOS, and Android. You can get it from the App Store. And for just only $24.99, that's far less than a bar tab, you can completely remove ads and have a very clean experience. We love the app. People who've used the app love the app. So if you love the Photographer, download the app. Just search Photographer on iOS, iPadOS, and Android. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Inside the Photographer's Mind. Until then, see ya.